Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Shri Vaishnavi. Welcome back. This weekend we'll probably do 2 live streams to make up for last week. Forget what happened. I think it was my throat. Yeah, I just had to save my voice for teaching, I think. Anyway, today we are continuing on with chapter 7, verse 16 through 19, the next cluster of verses that all fit together perfectly. I find it really interesting. It took me 6 chapters to notice this trend in the Gita. The Bhagavad Gita as it is, deluxe 1972 Macmillan edition, that is. Please join me or not in some mantras to honor the literary incarnation of Sri Bhagavan. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Very well. Chapter 7, verse 16. O best among the Bharatas, Arjuna, 4 kinds of pious men render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. Of the 4 kinds, I'm speaking from my notes now, distressed is by far the most common advanced devotee I meet. I don't know why I needed to say advanced, but I'm starting to see it now. Yeah. I think it's just because humility is the cardinal virtue here of devotion. And so the more distressed you are, the more chance you have to do some sincere bhakti, which will be reciprocated by Krishna, which is what being advanced means. You just have more reciprocation with the Lord. Also, I think because it's in Kali Yuga, even philosopher people like me have a harder time going to Krishna by that path. It's much easier to get sucked up into the material sciences or some other brainy activity that can get a lot of money, like finance maybe, for instance. I don't know. As for me, I think my inquisitive nature brought me the Bhagavad Gita, but what actually brought me to Krishna consciousness and Krishna himself was distress, was severe distress. That's actually why I'm a devotee, is because I was distressed and I called to help to Krishna, basically. That's really the main reason. But because I have this nature of philosophy, I'm engaging in the activities I'm doing by like doing these live streams, reading, going into detail about Sanskrit language, all these nerdy things. That's just matching my nature. But that's not really how I became Krishna consciousness, meaning it's not like I was, just studying and then in the middle of stuff, oh, yes, there's Krishna. And then, that's just the next learning that happened. There was not like that. There was serious distress. And from that place, I got together with Krishna, I guess. I was able to surrender. So what is the difference between inquisitive and one searching for knowledge of truth? In the English and Sanskrit translation, I believe pious is used for both. Sukritinaha. means pious. So all four kinds of people are pious. Jigyasu is inquisitive, and Jnani is the one who's searching for knowledge of the absolute truth. Now, an important note, and one of the main points I think we'll get from the purport is that of these four pious people, none are in the stage of pure devotional service. And what that means is, of these four pious kinds of people who do render devotional service unto Krishna, none of them are doing it purely. And that's a technical term. I don't mean it in a spiritual transcendental sense as much. I mean simply that pure intentions. So all four kinds of people are asking for something in return. It is some kind of exchange. I give you this, you give me that. But pure means there's no exchange. You're doing something just to do it. You're doing bhakti for the sake of bhakti. You may remember I like to use judo as an example. It's similar enough. So doing judo for the sake of judo is pure judo, which is ironically not at all what I'm doing here. I'm doing judo just for the sake of a black belt so I can teach judo, and I'm doing that so I can please Krishna. So in one sense, very not pure, and in another sense, pure because the fundamental intention is Krishna. That's why I'm doing judo. But there's many levels indirect from it. I don't know how to classify that. So Prabhupada says here that it's not just that you are under material distress and then you become devotee of the Lord. It's you're under material distress and at that time associate with pure devotees and then become devotees of the Lord. Although there are those who are simply frustrated, and they sometimes associate with the pure devotees and then become inquisitive. And the dry philosophers, though they may be successful, eventually they become frustrated in every field of knowledge, and they sometimes want to learn of God. On the whole, when they fully understand that material remuneration has nothing to do with spiritual improvement, they become pure devotees. As long as such a purified stage is not attained, devotees in transcendental service to the Lord are tainted with fruitive activities, and they search after mundane knowledge. So one has to transcend all this before one can come to the stage of pure devotional service. Okay, moving on to verse 17. Of these, the wise one who is in full knowledge in union with me through pure devotional service is the best, for I am very dear to him, and he is dear to me. So who is the wise one who is in full knowledge? That's the Jnani. And in union with me, that's the addition in this verse. Not just talking about the Jnani, but the Jnani who's started to practice bhakti as well, or yoga with a capital Y. And what does it mean to be a Jnani or anyone who is in union with Krishna? That means free from all material desires. And in the last sentence of the purport, Prabhupada says, one in pure knowledge of Sri Bhagavan is so protected in devotional service that material contaminations cannot touch him. Oh. Well, that's all I have for my notes, and the purport is pretty small too. So I think we'll go on. After all, this is a very explicit verse. It's not particularly deep. It's just saying of the four, this one is best, which should be obvious, I think. Like I said, if you're distressed, that may be the best way to start your path with God. It may be the most natural way to do that. But you have no knowledge. So obviously one in knowledge will be better. And Krishna has already stated way back in chapter 2, I think, that it's better to have knowledge than to do dry renunciation, something like that. Anyway, Krishna stated before explicitly that it's good to have knowledge. And the path of knowledge is a noble and effective path, for sure. Verse 18. All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider verily to dwell in me. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he attains me. So this is almost the same as the previous verse. The addition here is that the jnani, who is practicing bhakti, isn't just dear to Krishna, he is dwelling inside Krishna. That's the main new addition here. And of course, we see this word magnanimous, which is the crown virtue for Aristotle, and a very useful word that Prabhupada and Krishna used more than once in the Gita here. Udara, udara. Udaraha. Udaraha means magnanimous. I think that U is definitely a prefix like Upendra, but I thought that meant like junior, like Upendra is like the junior Indra, something like that. Anyway, I have no idea what that means. How you get magnanimous from udara, I have no idea. It's beyond me. This purport is also not too long, but in it is a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam 9.4.57. I'll read that in English now. Quote, the devotees are always in my heart, and I am always in the heart of the devotees. The devotee does not know anything beyond me, and I also cannot forget the devotee. There is a very intimate relationship between me and the pure devotees. Pure devotees in full knowledge are never out of spiritual touch, and therefore they are very much dear to me, unquote. All right, let's now go on to 19, which is the final verse in this cluster. Here it goes. One more time. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. A very rare Mahatma. That's literally what it says in Sanskrit. Saha, such, Mahatma, great soul, Sudurlabha, Sudurlabhaha. Very rare. Such a Mahatma is very rare. Not too long a verse purport either, but we'll get into it. The next verse cluster is about demigods. But anyway, let's continue with. I have just one more note here about this verse. And this Mahatma knows Krishna to be Vasudevaha, Sarvam, the cause of all causes. So Vasudeva, which is a name of Krishna and the name of Krishna's father too, right? Well, it's Nanda Maharaj, but I get really confused with all the Sanskrit names and in a lot of the Leelas. Vasudeva is the author of the Vedas, right? Most of the Vedas. And I think his father's name is also Vasudeva, but just with like a long vowel instead of a short vowel. But here in this verse, Vasudeva literally means cause of all causes. And Sarva means all. Well, I need to read some of the purport here for this one, because we're pretty much done. Only 17 minutes. Wow, might be a new record. It's probably because it's later at night. I'm in a very different mood now. Anyway. While one is trying to give up one's attachment to materialism, there is some leaning towards impersonalism. But when one is further advanced, he can understand that there are activities in the spiritual life and that these activities constitute spiritual service. Realizing this, he becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrenders to him. At such a time, one can understand that Lord Sri Krishna's mercy is everything. He is the cause of all causes, and the material world is a perverted reflection of spiritual variegatedness. And in everything, there is a relationship with Krishna. And this verse is nicely explained in the 3rd chapter of Shvetashvatar Upanishad. Quote, in this body there are powers of speaking, of seeing, of hearing, of mental activities, etc. But these are not important if not related to the Supreme Lord. And because Vasudev is all-pervading and everything is Vasudev, the devotee surrenders in full knowledge. Unquote. Oh, and here's a note. It says CF. I don't know what that means. Continued finding, maybe. Bhagavad Gita 7:17 and 11:40. 7:17. That was the previous verse we already read. Full knowledge just could be the word jnana. I don't see the connection there. Let's just check out 11:40. Obeisances from the front, from behind, and from all sides. O unbounded power, you are the master of limitless might. You are all pervading, and thus you are everything. I'm wondering if maybe the word Vasudev was in the Sanskrit, but no, I'm not seeing the connection there. Well, I'm going to put this in my notes. (7:19) end. Purport. What does CF mean? Maybe tomorrow we'll get the answer to that. Anyway, that's it. That was a quick stream. I hope to do more quick ones. We'll see you again tomorrow to learn about the demigods and how people come to worship the demigods instead of Krishna or on the path to Krishna. That's it, folks. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, etc. and so forth. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Shri Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis. See you later.